Yeah, we didn't really make too much money, but that's alright. It's some money, and that will help. I'm interested in any spells. I'm sure that he's got a spell for me, and that's what I'm mainly here for. Oh, maybe I better buy that. Yeah, I'll take that, yeah. Sure. Oops. Wait. Yep. Go, 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 go. Buy. First thing is spells. Techniques, but no spell. Oh, yeah, here's the magics. There's Poach. Horology and Charge. Oh, yeah, I need Charge, yeah. Can I give her Charge? If your mana is... Ally Pinello. Oh no, I'm sorry. If ally, no, if self MP is below 30%, I want you to begin to charge. Extra berries, first aid. No, she doesn't get charged. You don't have the license for this action, so let's see if she can. 272. I thought she was supposed to get double the LP. She doesn't have double the LP. What are you talking about? You lied. Oh, no, Ash does. Oh, wait. Oh, I put... oh, yeah, Ash. I haven't done in a while. I thought... oh, does Ash have double the LP thing? I thought... but I wanted it on Pinello. Oh, no, Pinello can't use the... what is it? It's the Golden Amulet. Only Ash can use the Golden Amulet, so that's fine. She's just going to sit in the background. So, Pinello, what your Gambit is never going to be charged unless I can find it on that chart somewhere. Let's see. On Pinello, we are looking for charge. Spellbound might be worth to go buy, but it'll be expensive. Bubble and Siphon. Green and reverse. Charge. There it is. Very good. Yep. And so when she's out of mana... she will charge. That solves a lot of our problems. And then so any ally, as opposed to Van, now she can just buff us all. It doesn't matter. So all, ally any, protect and shell. Ally any, protect and shell. That's good. And then what other spells does she have? Pinello's spells. No. Pinello's spells are Blindna, Cure, Poisona, Vox, Shell, and Protect. I want to give her a Gambit for if anybody's silenced, but I'm not sure. Ally any... No, that won't work. It's like if LA is, I need to buy a whole lot of them. That's not gonna work, is it? Nope. But she's better now. That's good. Now she's gonna charge, but she pulls 0. So she's gonna charge. It pulls 0, and she got 22 MP. And then she protects somebody, and then she protects somebody, and then she charges again, protect. But she runs out of mana, and then she goes charge, and she gets 21 mana. That kind of makes it so she can always keep mana, you know? Yep, and then she gets up to 33 and she can just keep casting and keep spells on us and stuff. There, see, yeah, she's got 57 protect and she can just keep, yeah, she can just keep running. Nice save. Nice. I need to look at spells, but I did want to get our stats back. Dice. Okay. Spells wise. Stop. Kira. Arrow is the one I want. Raise would be nice. Let's buy Raise. Disable. Sure. And Kira. And that's everything for now. And then I don't know, but let's do Gambits. If let's move you one, or well, yeah, let's move you all one down. If ally HP is below 50%, I want you to Kira. Yep. And yep, and then give him a big heal. And yep, and she's just gonna be this awesome healer. And then I'm gonna go back and save since I did stuff. I like the bird place. I kind of want to grind it, but I need to do the rest of the desert first and then reveal the whole map. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Look at how much pointless walking it actually is. It's kind of it's unreasonable, frankly.
Incredibly happy about this news.
Yes, yeah, I'm happy. If Joe steps down.
I'm not quite as sure that he's going to step down. I think it's...
Yeah, if Joe steps down.
100%, I would bet you any amount of...
Let me give you some credit. You cut me off before I give you credit.
Sorry.
This is, of the developments that could indicate that it's very likely to happen, these are about as significant as they could be. I mean, what we've been waiting for is the group to walk over and tell him, and I think that other than like Jill Biden indicating that she's trying to get him to drop out, I think this is about as significant as it could be. I don't know that I necessarily think that it's going to swing it 10 points or anything, but I think it totally could swing it by 5 points. I think it could swing it by 6. I think you will see an immediate polling advantage, not only for the general election and the presidential nomination, the presidential ticket standing in the battleground states, but also in the Senate races. And apparently, that was one of the key things that Chuck Schumer stressed in the meeting with Biden is our candidates are being dragged down. We have the polling data. And so I still think everybody needs to get ready. Let's say we get past this process, and it's unprecedented. There are waters that we haven't treaded before. It's still going to be a campaign. We're still going to have to fight. There's still lingering concerns over prices. Like any Democrat is going to have to defend Biden's record. They're not going to have it tied to them in the same way that Joe Biden did. Or that Harris kind of will. It's still going to be a campaign, but it's a campaign that we have a definite fighting chance in. And so I know there's some people that are probably super mad at us and super mad at the Democrats and everything, but I really do think that these are very, very positive developments.
Look, I love you guys, but I don't know why you would be mad at trying to win an election. It's madness. But it doesn't matter. Joe Biden had no chance.
Some people don't trust the polls, and some people really like Joe Biden. They might have supported him.
Okay, all right. If you love Joe, if you love Joe Biden, okay. But Michael Schur, I don't know that anybody loves Joe Biden more than Michael Schur. And even he thinks he had to go, right? Because he doesn't want to lose to Trump.
Yeah.
Okay, so look, now, last thing about Biden, and then I want to talk about the future for one more minute. So earlier today, we reported to you guys that Joe Biden all of a sudden changed his messaging. And he didn't say, oh, I won't go on unless the Almighty comes down, et cetera. He said, well, if a medical condition were to arise. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I did see that.
Okay, that's a giant, giant difference. And we shared that with you guys earlier. And he said, look, I was always meant to be a transitional president. Okay, well, that's what we were saying, right? And he was like,
well, that's what he was saying.
Yeah, and he had denied that that meant one term. He kept insisting, his team kept insisting that, yeah, we transitioned through 2 terms in 8 years. Well, that's not a transition. That's just being a 2-term president, right? But today, Biden made a reference to 1 term and transition. So this thing's over. Yeah. And even Bernie, who has been, in my opinion, unfortunately, his biggest advocate, today would not answer whether Biden was going to be able to finish his 2nd term. So,
yeah, I did notice that.
Yeah, and that's probably because he already knew what had happened in the caucus and that Schumer was going to go speak to Biden today.
Yeah.
So over. Thanks for watching The Young Turks. I really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges,
You got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you got to do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.
All right, back at the Young Turks at the RNC. Cenk Ugranik is sparing. As you can tell, Charlie Kirk joins us.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it has. Good to have you here from Talking Points USA. And so
Close.
Turning point.
Oh, did I say that? That's hilarious. I meant Turning Point
so
USA.
close, Cenk.
That was a Freudian slip. Okay. So, so Charlie, you and I now have some strange agreements. Okay. So
The whole world is just, it's coming to an end.
right. So, but believe me, we have plenty of disagreements, and we're going to get to it. So we both think Biden's a bad candidate. We both say that we represent the populist wing of our parties, right? So let me start with a simple question. Do you want Biden to stay the Democratic nominee?
Boy, that's a good question. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I think that he's probably the most beatable right now. I would think so. Yeah. Especially Democrat corporate oligarch Biden. The more that he's leaned into kind of more of the progressive stuff over the last couple of weeks, I think it makes him harder to beat. But I just don't think he's not all mentally there.
Okay, good one.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the vulnerabilities on the right. You know, one thing that I've noticed, you say, other members of conservative media say, is that, you know, the female vote is a lot more difficult for conservatives, right? Or for the Republican Party. That the unmarried women are more likely to vote for Democrats. That's the problem. We need to get women married and they'll change their political views. But honestly, I wonder if you realize statements like the one you made at a Turning Point USA event. You said something along the lines of, well, women are past their prime once they turn 30, right? Do you ever wonder whether those kinds of messages might actually be, you know, a little offensive to women, and then they might think that represents the entirety of the Republican Party? You know, it's not exactly the most welcoming message for women.
Well, I mean, first, what I said specific, it's close to what I said, but what I said is as women get older, the dating pool shrinks, which is obvious. And I think you would agree with that. So, I mean, unfortunately, that's the biological reality we live in. But yeah, look, I mean, we do a big women's summit. I think that our agenda is very popular for all people. But it's not a new phenomenon that young women lean liberal. But certainly since the, you know, reversal of Roe versus Wade and bring it back to the states, Democrats have enjoyed some, I think, short-lived popularity with young female voters for sure.
Now, right here at the convention, you said that all men should vote for Trump.
Well, I didn't say, well, I do think all men should vote. Yes. I said that you're not a man if you don't vote for Trump.
Yeah, that's even worse, of course.
Yeah.
So, so look.
I mean, come on, Cenk, look at that. I mean, can your candidate do that?
Yeah. No. And so, look, I'm honest.
Who's your preferred candidate?
Oh, I would never.
You think Bernie could do this? If Bernie got shot, would Bernie do this?
Look, I hope nobody ever gets shot.
How about Gretchen
We never
Whitmer?
find out. We never find out. Hey, Gretchen Whitmer almost got kidnapped by you guys. So,
well, no,
so she was pretty good too. So, okay.
Hang on, do you think Gavin Newsom would do this? He got shot. He would run quick away if Gavin Newsom got shot.
So, but
I'm giving you a hard time.
I know, Charlie. Look, I said that Trump that day was courageous.
You were legit. That's why I'm here today. Is because you were like one of the honest guys on the left that was like, okay, that's pretty ballsy.
Yeah, no question. He did a great job, and I love when the crowd chanted USA, USA, because the president had just been saved, right? And so former president, but we still call former presidents President Trump, etc. And that was a great moment. He says, fight, fight, fight. They say USA, USA. I love that. That makes me proud of America, okay? Now, having said that, you know that has nothing to do with policy. So as if you're a man who cares about name, fill in the blank, universal health care, paid family leave, a higher minimum wage, which leads to higher wages overall. You care about fighting inflation. You care about getting corruption out of politics. Why the hell would Trump doing that affect my vote at all?
That's a super fair question. And what I was basically getting at is that if this doesn't, as a man, earn you some political points of respect, that's what the essence of what I was saying. But of course, that you're electing a president, a set of policies in 4 years.
1924.
And that's a fair critique.
Okay, so I want to ask you about Ronna McDaniel, because you led the charge against her at the
Mitt Romney. I'm kidding.
Okay, you can call it whatever you want. Hey, listen, in a sense, I'm leading the charge against Jamie Harrison at the DNC. So,
and one of us has been successful.
Well, give me time. Give me a minute.
I'm rooting
Give me
for
a
you,
minute.
man.
Okay. So look, now even Jake Tapper today basically called Jamie Harrison a liar at the DNC because he is a liar. He's been lying the whole time, and he's lying about the Ohio Chanel.
Thanks for watching. Our audience has helped build TYT into the media giant it is today. Together, we can accomplish anything. Support our work and join us at tyt.com/team.
But I want to ask you about your side. Sure. So what was your guys' beef with Ronna McDowell?
Well, first of all, the grassroots didn't have a seat at the table, which I think you could sympathize with. The
$9.99.
Democrat Party, I don't think, has a voice for the grassroots right now. And in fact, if I was advising Democrats, it'd be like, your power is in the Bernie Sanders wing of your party. Like, why are you not tapping into that? Not into this like old stodgy neoliberal warmongering, weak Bush Cheney.
So apparently they updated Once Human, 2 gigs. There's new cosmetics, lots of cool outfits. Customize your clothing, vehicle, weapon, and home. Stand out with your style. Stardust Advent, rare battle pass rewards. Speed through this treacherous world. Take a deep breath, for the world is your racetrack. Global release, a new world with new enemies and new allies. Mayflies are already ready to fight, survive, and thrive. Join the Once community. Don't remind me today. Okay, is your server still down? Server under maintenance. Okay. Well, so it appears that this game is down. We're going to change to a different game here. And I will switch over to Nightingale. While Once Human patches. Oh, it's got to update, I guess. Oh, no, it didn't. So there we go. And I am going to play some Nightingale, but I've got to change my title from Once Human. Well, I mean, I am playing Once Human. It's just patching, So whatever, I'll play Nightingale. It's fine. I should go south. I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of places I could go. Let's go back. My arrow hurts them so bad. I'm so glad I bought it. Yeah, I haven't seen this since I reformatted. I think this game will be a lot better now that it's reformatted. It was playing well anyways, but now that I've reformatted, I bet it plays better. Yeah, go. Close. How would you like to exit? Wait, back up. No, wait. I want to play offline. Proceed with offline. New profile. They wiped my game, I guess. So it erased my character again. Wait, is that right? No, this is right. This is right. It erased my character. That sucks. Ugh. Why is it so stupid? I don't know. Fucking freaks. No, no, wait, no, wait, close, close. So dumb. Why is that so funny? I don't know. It's just funny because it's just random. I don't know. I just did it. I just did it. So now step 2. Customize your appearance, skin tone, eye color. But I don't care. That's the problem. You already erased my last character. Why did you erase my last character? Oh my god. Why did you erase my last character? Oh my god. Yeah. Perfect. Nope, nope. Sold. I don't want to go to... I don't want to start in the swamp. The desert wasn't too good. I want to start in the forest. Okay, so I think because I changed drives, I lost my profile. That's all right. I think I had the wrong settings anyways. I don't care. Let's go. Oh, I didn't sit down. I need to. But I'm making good progress. I'm like level 11, almost 12. love this game. This game gets me. I could give a flying fuck about a story. I mean, I care about the story if you give me enough combat. Like, good combat. Yeah, so I guess I go south because I'm just at the south entrance. We don't know where this goes, but we're gonna find out. Oh, some kind of cave. Okay, but give me a... Ooh, yeah. What level are these, huh? They are level 16. That's fine. Yeah, let's do it. Okay, realm cars not available. Factions present. The company forced to bans. Continue journey. It is... Oh. Okay, we're rendering. Oof. Graphics are not so good. I don't know. Your graphics aren't so good. This won't do balanced. Let's try FSR. Nope. This is the game's performance on ultra quality. I'm sure it's good, but I mean, I don't know. This game, yeah, like I don't know. I thought it would perform better after the reformat, but no, this game just is not playing well. I'm in ultra performance mode, and this is not even a playable frame rate. Like maybe it's rendering. I don't know. But yeah, I don't think this is my game. It's like, I like the ideas of this game, but... And I want to play it, but... Oh, that performance. Guys, after playing this game, I'm like, nope. No thanks. I'm gonna go play a good game. Like, I wondered why this game was playing so badly. It's because I loaded Nightingale. It doesn't play well with others. Oh, the Sand Sea, huh? Oh. No, I just went out the wrong way. I got turned around. Oops. That's okay. Blind. Let's see what they're weak to. Weak to stone, is it? I don't have stone yet. No, I don't have stone, so just run arrow. That's all good. Oh, it healed him. He is arrow. So run aqua. There, that hurt him. Fuck, you killed Vossler. Does Pinello have Raise? Yes, she does. Raise Vossler. Okay, Vossler gets a high potion. Actually, Pinello gets a potion first. Well, no. Vossler is going to get a potion here. He can tank for us. Aqua is hurting them. Let's see if Blizzard hurts them. Not much less than Aqua. Try Aqua. It was a good fight. It hurt. But it was a good fight. Oh. No, I don't want you to attack. I want you to Aqua. I'm like the only one here who does any damage. I mean, they're doing okay. That doesn't go anywhere. This isn't the first time I've seen Square do that. This is like Final Fantasy XI, just single player. I love it. Faster pace, too. Oh yeah, grapple. They put a grappling hook in, but the frame rate isn't too good. The game doesn't play well with others. I don't know. I guess it's something that I don't have the power to fix. 1087. I love the big numbers. So okay, we see that didn't really like go anywhere yet, but it probably does later. I don't like Nightingale. I think I'd like to actually return it, but I have 15 hours in it. I can't get... I want help with this game. Like, I want to return this. I doubt they'll give it to me either. They'll be like, no, it's alright. I'm gonna fucking uninstall this game. Uninstall. Get it off my C drive. Nello Zoom. But, I mean, we're on our way here. I'm going to go east, but she can always charge up. Yeah, they can charge. Soleo ring. What's a Soleo ring? That bird looks so cool. Gonna check the Discord for public news. Thursday, 19 hours. 15 enemy station hold time. Result one hostile structure. Cool. 1915 is 14 hours from now. When is 1915? 1715. So we're on dock next to this 1915. When is 1915? Right now it's 6 a.m. In 6 hours it'll be noon. And then in 7 more hours that'll be 7 p.m. Oh, so it's 7 p.m. We have a yeah, it's no, it's 1915. Yeah, 1915 is that's that is right now. Today is the 18th. And so that is in 6 plus 9 is 15 hours from now. Will be 7 p.m. Yeah, so it's 7 p.m. tomorrow. We have an op, and that's good. Okay. Anathema Galnet Streamcast. I definitely will take a swing at this. Nice. Yeah, I'll take it. It was half price. What's this on the market? 16 mil. Never mind. This was a good deal. Cool. Yeah, hey, free skin, essentially. This was like Gal something or another. Streamcast unit skin. Activate. Yes. Cool. Okay. Hey, a crystal. Yay. Yensa border tunnel. So, okay, so we see that this connects way over to Namsam Sensi. So, okay, we see that there's a lot of places I haven't been. So let's just keep going forward, I guess, and because the crystal fixes all my problems. Oh, she needs that one buff that makes her shit last longer. She's constantly, constantly. Oh my god, she has 286. So, yeah, definitely that one that definitely gives her, cheaper... Yeah, they're magic MP costs. Yeah, just in general, her spells are expensive. Magic potency increases physical gain of type of dealing tap magic attack, reduces action time. Rod of Faith accessories. Heads again after defeating the That one would be good. Here we go. Trying to reach that one. Probably cheaper to go that way. And then I'll get Spellbound next. Yep. And let's go bust Vaughn's points. Accessories for the battle harness. This is Poach. I don't want him to poach. Makara. Increases magic potency. That's good. Ether Lore would be good. I do want to invest the 20 points into it. I like it. I just don't think the... Oh, gain MP after taking damage. Cool. Yep. Gambit slots aren't of too much interest to me. Bio and Aeroga. We don't have those spells yet. Turtle Shell, Golden Amulet. Araga would be really nice. Araga. Maybe I should buy that, but I don't think I have Araga yet. Gain MP after dealing magic attack damage, so we'll buy that, yeah. Accessory 6. Okay, well. And we'll just buy all of his, who cares? Thousand needles.
Version of the Democrat Party. But anyway, what am I to give advice to Democrats, right? But no, my critique of Ronna McRomney was that, yes, there's a track record of losing. Fine. Okay, I've made mistakes in the past. You know, we're trying to all adjust. More importantly, though, is that conservative grassroots did not have a seat at the table. Is that we have an agenda that we felt was not being represented, not being listened to. And then there were some like very wonky parliamentarian things I think that you would agree with. And you know this, like Robert Rules of Order, like you know how these parties operate, right?
Yes.
They steamroll the little guy. They steamroll the states that aren't as important to fundraising, and we found that to be objectionable. And so we Donald Trump made the ultimate decision, but we led a very, very heated campaign against Ronna, and ultimately that was
But
successful.
hold on, one quick follow-up, Anna.
Sure.
So, Charlie, here's what I don't understand about the Republicans. On the Democratic side, I think it's fairly clear because the establishment corporate Democrats have all the money. So the Bernie side has grassroots money, grassroots energy, but that's only earned. You have to actually deliver, otherwise the grassroots don't give you the money, right? So that's why the DNC says, well, I can't count on that because I'm corporate. I'm serving these donors. I'll never get the grassroots money. So I'm going to halfway give up on that. And so I'm going to be purely corporate, right? So on the Democratic side, it's really stark, right? But on the Republican side, the grassroots also has tons of donor money. So why do they object to the grassroots? They have no reason to.
That's an interesting point. It's because of their values. It's because the grassroots represent a value system that the Vichy French Republicans do not believe in, which is that we believe neoliberalism has been a failed experiment in the modern era. I think you actually might agree with part of that, both of you guys.
I definitely agree with that.
definitely.
But you know, this is the thing I don't get, and this is why, for the first time, I find the convention, the Republican convention, so fascinating, because I do see this growing faction of Republican voters. Who
I am
are
not a
headed
neoliberal.
in the direction of economic
Not
populism.
in any way or
right?
form.
They like Social Security. They like Medicare. They want better wages for workers. They want protectionism in regard to, you know, trade and tariffs. And I find that also fascinating. But at the same time, you know, you seem to be empathetic to that message and to those desires by some Republican voters. At the same time, like on your show, you had this one segment.
Not a fan of Social Security.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
so.
But let me clarify.
Wildly popular even among Republicans.
I'm just not a fan of things that aren't properly funded or go bankrupt.
So would you be in favor of lifting the cap on Social Security taxes
What
in order to fund Social Security?
educate me about what that would look like.
So it's around $174,000 if I remember right.
So like rich people shouldn't get Social Security effectively?
No,
No,
not at all. They should definitely get it.
Everyone gets it.
Everybody should get it.
Regardless of age? Or
No. Everybody in terms of income, right? But because universal programs work better, everybody buys into it. Because if the rich don't get it, they'll kill it.
1898.
That's usually how it works.
but how is that any different than
No. Hold on.
Tax for Social Security.
I love this
Has
conversation.
a certain income, and every year it changes. So, for instance, let's say you're making $200,000 a year. After about $174,000,
the FICA tax no longer
they stop
applies?
taxing you
I
on
see.
Social Security.
Okay. Yeah, I'd have to think about that. That sounds like probably a good idea, but I'd have to like look at the counter argument.
Okay.
I mean, but look, as far as what my critique of Social Security is that it is going to go bankrupt soon, and it has been a lot of serious.
Why can't they make other lube look that good?
Debts and deficits.
In
But
other
yes, we have
games.
a moral obligation to fulfill the contract that we have with workers that have paid into it for quite some time. And so, but we're fooling ourselves if we act as if this thing's going to be around forever. At the current pace, that's just not correct.
Okay, it definitely can be if all you do is lift the cap.
Okay, I'll take your word at it. I'm not in the weeds of, Social Security policy wonkery.
Yeah, no problem. So let me see if I can find more agreement. Paid family leave. 84% of Americans agree with it. 74% of Republican voters agree with it. 12 weeks off for a mom after.
That's what we do at Turning Point.
Yeah.
We do 3 months family leave.
That's exactly what we do at TYT.
So we're another point of agreement.
Okay, but we can't get corporate Republicans or corporate Democrats to say yes.
Well, I think either Rubio or Romney pushed this. You guys could correct me.
Romney.
Yeah,
Romney
great,
did.
my favorite guy. But I'd have to look at what the European model does. But if we're actually, and there's abuses, of course there are. But yes, I mean, again, I'm not like a huge fan of like more government programs all the time. Just that's my disposition. But how about this? Instead of $200 billion to Ukraine, $200 billion to say that moms can stay with their babies for 12 weeks.
I mean,
we would definitely.
Okay, then we have agreement.
Okay, because look, I think Russia did invade Ukraine.
They were provoked.
All right, we can get into that disagreement.
See, I'm more based on war than you are.
No. Look,
You're
okay,
neoliberal
let me
now.
ask you-
I'm giving you a hard time.
No, let me ask you the same
They were
question.
provoked, though. Come on.
Charlie, let me ask you the same question I asked Giuliani last time. So Trump keeps saying, and you guys all agree, oh my God, if Trump was president, we wouldn't have any of these wars. You say that?
Well, it's not speculative, Cenk. He was president, and we didn't have these wars.
Okay.
So it's not.
But
as
he
if
says, okay, but he says.
Did
it's
you
because
forget about
they know that not to
Afghanistan
mess with
or
the because is a guess. The point is you have to agree for 4 years we didn't have the wars. The
But
because
what-
could be because of his stature, it could be because of threats, it could be because of relationships or friendships. That's all a guess. I don't know and you don't know. We only know what happened for 4 years, which is no new wars, first time in 40 years.
So, but he keeps saying, because they know that I'm tough. Does that mean that if Russia invaded Ukraine on Trump's watch, that Trump would have attacked Russia?
Well, but they didn't. I don't know the answer to that. So he is making an argument that they didn't invade because of our big military peace through strength, and I threatened to bomb the Kremlin. Maybe that's true, or maybe it's that he had the cojones to have a Helsinki summit and was attacked by his own intel agencies. And Donald Trump looked in the camera and they said, "Well, do you not trust the CIA?" He's like, "Yeah, I don't trust the CIA." Which was totally true, by the way. So I don't know. Like, we're guessing as to the why, but we do know the what. Here's the what. Under Biden, we do have more war, and war is terrible. Under Trump, we had no war. And so the
okay,
why we'll
He
argue,
yeah,
we'll argue forever, Cenk, but you have to at least agree on the reality that there were no new wars under Trump.
some areas I actually agree. And this is just me speculating. You're right. No one knows
It's a
for
guess.
sure. But I do think that Trump's stature and also the fact that he's a bit of a wild card and you don't know whether he's going to be a rational actor did dissuade people like Putin from,
I don't
so
think
I'll
that's
give
a
you
bad
that.
thing, right?
No, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but I do have a very specific question on something Trump did that could have led to a disastrous war. Luckily, it didn't. But the Iran nuclear deal, right? The Iran nuclear deal prevented Iran from developing nuclear weapons, and it had a way of ensuring, like, it wasn't just between the United States and Iran. There were other countries in the international community who signed on to that deal, and Iran allowed for members of that community to go in and check to make sure that they were not developing nuclear weapons. Trump took that, ripped it up, and then for a while, Iran still followed through with the deal, even though Trump ripped it up. They didn't need to. And then after a while, they're like, you know what? There's a lot of antagonism toward us. We're going to develop the nuclear weapons. And so they started enriching uranium again. Then you have the assassination of Qasem Soleimani, which, did lead.
Aggressive.
That was aggressive, and that could have led to an even bigger disaster. There's already been some retaliation by Iran toward our troops as a result of that. So can you at least acknowledge that there were at least some areas where Trump was belligerent in regard to international policy?
Times, yes, and the argument that his camp would make, again, I'm not a spokesperson for Trump, okay? I'm just an admirer, a friend, and an advocate, is that because of the hawkishness in certain elements, that it created peace. And it's hard to disagree with that. I'm not a fan of trying to go to war with Iran. I don't think the Iranian regime is moral or good, but I have a consistent mantra that has been developing over the last decade, and I think a lot of Americans are with me. Foreign abstractions mean far less than pressing domestic crises. And so it's just like this war with Iran is a weird, fanatical obsession with some people in my party that are here right now, like Senator Lindsey Graham.
Yep.
And it's insane and it's weird.
It's insane and it's weird.
Destructive.
It's
to our own
destructive
country.
to America.
And I speak about it
Fuck you
publicly and
guys.
privately.
And I'm sick of
You
you.
know who also is sympathetic when I'm saying? JD Vance. And so that's a fact.
Well, so I want to ask you about that as well. But so you mentioned Ukraine. We've given $300 billion to Israel over all these years. You want to stop giving money to Israel?
No, I don't. I think it's not the same thing. Happy to tell you why. And I've made the argument before. First of all, I will agree. It is deserving of explanation why the aid to Israel went from 14 billion to 26 billion just like magically overnight. That's like, again, I'm like super Israel, like, guys, come on. Like, you just can't just make up numbers and just start. But no, I will say this, as someone who is a believer in a place for American Jewry to have a country and a state, I do believe that it is worthy of some form of aid. If it's repaid, if it's in American arms, again, I'm not a policy wonk, guys, on that stuff, but I do think that protecting a nation of Israel in a time of crisis is not the same as assisting Ukraine.
Let me ask you something even more specific in regard to our aid to Israel. The United States has not had a budget surplus since 2001. That was literally the last time we had a budget surplus. Israel had a budget surplus in 2022. Okay, the pandemic didn't matter. They still somehow...
That's a very good argument.
Right, so
I can't disagree.
That American taxpayers should fund the bombs that Israel is dropping on Gaza is ridiculous to me. But
so you mentioned J.D. Vance. You're an advocate for J.D. Vance. Tell me why you're excited about it.
He's a friend, so I'm super biased, but I mean, he's a younger person on the ticket. I think you guys can agree if Biden remains, which you don't think he will. And I want to pick your brain about, like, actually, I'm super interested. Is that we have 81, 78, 59 is the ages of the three people in contention, and now you have a 39-year-old. So I think it's an interesting new wrinkle. And he also is not a neoliberal, and we very well could have had a neoliberal on the ticket. And he is a legit conservative that understands the America First agenda that you see here on full display. And so I'm hopeful that this new viewpoint is going to be permanent in the Republican Party.
Are you worried that his stance on abortion, which is no exceptions of rape and incest, will be very damaging to the campaign?
No, I don't. I think he has said that he agrees with the president, sent it back to the states. I think he's been really fair, and now it's a joint ticket. And so he will harmonize his views with that at the top of the ticket.
Okay, and if you guys are populists, how do you feel about the giant corporate tax cuts that Trump gave the last time around, and then this time around, he's saying he's going to do even more corporate tax
Well, it
cuts.
depends on. So part of it was really good. Part of it was a small business relief and tax cuts. Some of it was for families and for workers. I think I could agree, of all the legislative priorities that we as conservatives were pushing for, making sure that Google was going to have a lower effective corporate tax rate was not the best use of our legislative energy. But I do, and you know this, I'm a conservative, so I have a disposition towards more money in private sector pockets is better than public sector pockets. However, this is the evolution of populism, is that we do not like centralized power, and you must be consistent. But centralized power in government or centralized power in corporations are both bad. And
Okay, now we're getting
you
somewhere.
must be consistent, and especially when you have a small subset of multi-trillion-dollar corporations that are largely unaccountable in the tech space. And you've had your own tech wars, guys, and so have we. And you know, for example, being censored, being banned, and all that. So yeah, like, I mean, cutting the taxes of Goldman Sachs is like, I can't say that I'm like, it's my number one issue to oppose, but how about you guys go deliver actual results for the voters that put you in there in the first place?
Okay, look, if you guys agree with us, I'll take yes for an answer. And
There was more nuance there.
but yeah, I hear you. All right, last one on policy, money in politics. So for us on the left, that's the number one issue, because that's what leads to all this corruption in the first place. Why do we give money to defense contractors endlessly? Because they give money to the politicians. Why do we give the money to the oil companies? You want to drill? No problem. We can have that debate, right? But why are we giving $20 billion extra of taxpayer money to the richest corporations in the world? And it's because they give money to politicians. The money in politics is the original cancer. What do you think?
I don't know if it's the original sin. I agree with a lot of that, by the way. I would love your guys' thoughts. So you guys, because when I first was at Politicon, this was like a huge issue, Citizens United. That's like 7 or 8 years ago, because that was like my biggest interaction with like really left-wing activists. What do you think of a lot of left-wing forces embracing the dark money? Are you guys not fans of that? Like,
No.
okay, Lorraine Pell Jobs, Emerson Collective, Arabella Advisors, Democracy Alliance.
No.
Okay, cool. So we agree, because I think that's like creepy and weird. Like the fact that the Democrat Party has a much better organized billionaire class of funders than even the Republican Party does at the moment. But what is your question? Do I want campaign finance reform, or
How about we end the private financing of elections? Because if you if you privately finance elections, they're going to serve private
so
interests.
this is a tough issue, and let me tell you why. However, you know presidential elections were that way from Nixon to Obama. That both candidates took public. There is a law actually that as president you get your election publicly financed, up to about $700 million. However, you could decide to not take the money, which everyone does, because you can raise more money that way. So let me, and I
And Obama is the first one.
he broke the tradition.
Yeah, he broke the tradition and took more
Because of
private
small dollar,
money.
and
That's right.
and then we haven't gone back.
That's
Now,
right.
theoretically, right now, Donald Trump could say, "I'm going to take the $700 million," but it's a $3 billion race. You're going to lose. But I'm seriously interested from a policy perspective. What does that look like? That means that the U.S. taxpayer should fund every dog catcher running in every state. Like, no, actually,
Yeah.
And I'm not being facetious. Like,
No, I totally get it. So what happens is not everybody gets money. You have to prove that there's enough support for you that you should be one of the candidates that does get money. And you do that with grassroots support, signatures, et cetera, et cetera.
Do third-party candidates also get?
Yeah, so it depends on how you set it up, but it certainly could be that way. Yes.
Okay.
And I would want it to be that way.
So Bobby Kennedy, would you get it appropriated based on your polling data?
So there's
could be
different
one
ways of
metric,
doing it, but yes, that could be one metric as to how we do it.
Is there still a
Once
carve out for small dollar donors to still give money?
No, definitely.
So you're not against the mom and the pop and the plumber getting money.
Exactly right. Okay. You know why? Because they're the average American that the politician should be serving anyway. So, but you cap it at like $100 or $200, and then you say, and we're not going to give it to you unless you qualify. And once you qualify, you're going to get the same exact thing.
Just one
Now
shot
let's
him.
have an intellectual debate. Let's have a real debate of ideas instead of who's got more money. Because you're right. Right now, the Democrats have more money. And so the Democrats can just go and buy any seat they
2095.
want if they have more money than the Republicans. And that's not fair.
So
It's also not fair when the Republicans have more money.
What do you think is the weakness in this policy, if there is?
I don't think there actually is much of a weakness.
fair enough.
I'm an expert on this, and only because I've been working with Larry Lessig from Harvard Law for all these years. He's the godfather of the movement to get money out of politics. This has been thought through in every way. The reason
want
it
money
doesn't
out of
get done,
politics, too.
Charlie, is because all of the current politicians, their base of power is the donor money. So they don't want to let it go. That's
They don't
how
wanna
got
lose that.
elected.
So in other countries, so let me take a step back. So if our idea is to become populist, right, and to listen to voters, why is it in other countries that have publicly financed elections in the last couple of years, we've seen them embrace mass migration and funding Ukraine when their voters don't want it?
No, that's an interesting question, because those countries are actually swinging back and forth, and they're
Okay.
constantly choosing the new candidate for change, because we all live under corporate rule. And all those, whether it's
I'm
Brazil,
going to cook
France,
something.
UK, they're all swinging. They go Brexit, then they go a massive labor
Yes,
victory.
correct.
Right? In France, they go Macron when he's new. Now that he's the incumbent, they go against Macron.
So I want to watch some more of this, but I'm going to make dinner, and I'll be right back. Should just take like 2 minutes. I just gotta throw something in the microwave. Okay, dinner time. Today I will have a sandwich with some ramen. Oh. I haven't had ramen in months. Dinner's on the way. Gotta let it cool down and all this. See how Once Human is doing. Still down. That's unfortunate. Oh well. Yeah, right.
And they go even further left than Macron when they were about to go right. It's not right left. It's not right left. It's change. They go Bolsonaro in Brazil, then they go Lula, and it's because they don't have entrenched power that comes with corporate money being given to politicians.
Right. Well,
We're the most corrupt because we legalize bribery.
Yeah,
Fair
it's
enough.
baked into our system.
Totally, I agree. But let me ask. There's a Citizens United question I'm super interested in because you guys have to, which I think is the weakness in your point, and I'll get to that in a second. But I guess why is it then that mass migration has gone uninterrupted if the voters want it to be stopped?
So that depends on a number of things. But Le Pen nearly won in France.
Okay, fair enough. So that's the answer. Is that it's actually showing signs of life that.
And Trump is winning now here, and
Right.
Trump won in 2016. I mean, look, and that's a movement, even with all the money in politics, still, you guys had the advantage there in 2016. You have it again in 2024.
Well, and we have hopefully the people, not just the.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Despite the money in politics, and the corporations do want more immigrants in the country, you guys are still leading on that because of the big movement. And in France, that's why they almost elected far right when France is not far right at all.
No,
So I get that drives voters.
So let me ask you now about the only money in politics weakness I have is this, is that the way you regulate it, and this is the Citizens United case, is that would the Young Turks be considered a Democrat super PAC?
I mean,
That's not a facetious question, Chip.
No, I totally get it.
That's actually a good
I
faith
totally
question.
get it.
Because you see what I'm saying?
No, I do. So
Because Turning
the
Point,
media,
right?
no, the same thing applies
Yes.
for both of us, okay? You have to carve out media. First of all, it's a constitutional issue because freedom of the
that's
press.
why they decided Citizens United the way they did.
No,
So
I
it's
know
the
that.
Hillary Clinton book, as you know, is the essence of the.
Yeah. So I know this sounds pretentious, but it's okay. J.D. Vance is from Yale Law. I debated the guy who won.
I didn't go to college. So
Okay, I know. So I debated the guy who won Citizens United case and Floyd Abrams, the top constitutional lawyer in the country at Oxford, and beat him 2-1. Not because I'm that great at it, because it's so obvious, right? People don't want our politicians controlled by the money that they are getting directly or indirectly. When it comes to media, there is no way to solve that. Even in countries that don't have the money in politics problem, they still have media. And so media is going to be right, media is going to be left, media is going to be in the middle. You can't end media because then you have a freedom of press and freedom of speech issue.
Hear me out then. So let's just say the billionaire class can no longer give money to Joe Biden or Donald Trump. Why wouldn't they go spend $100 million and publish books in media and distribute them?
They would. They definitely.
Okay, so then this.
No, I know that.
The system is.
But Charlie, think about it. No, it's not. So two things. Number one, it's not going directly to the politicians, so that creates.
Fair enough. So it's some distance.
It's a significant distance, right? So, for example, if they gave it to us, I'm not going to go and advocate for politicians just because somebody gave us money. I know others would. I know others. Okay, but they have to win over an audience. You see what I'm saying?
Well, hear me out. If you're a billionaire in January of an election year, you could stand up a shell corporation with $100 million, run a bunch of ads and call it, Patriot Media or People's Media, and do a bunch of attack stuff against. What I'm getting at is, at the essence of the Citizens United case, and I know your audience knows this very well, was that is it constitutional to write a is it a campaign finance violation if I were to write a book against Hillary Clinton? And they argued, they said, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but that's not more than media. We're talking about, how about people? Let's take a step back, okay? What if Taylor Swift were to come out, theoretically, and she would say, go vote for Joe Biden? Is that an in-kind political contribution for his campaign?
So you can't stop that, but Charlie, you don't have to stop that. You're saying, well, currently they could fund media, and they do, right? And they could fund the politicians and the super PACs. Well, then they have three different massive ways of influencing the politicians. So why don't we knock out the two that are the most direct, giving directly to politicians and the super PACs? Then you've got the media issue. But at that point, and it's not that it's impossible, but they have to say, like, let's say they want a giant corporate tax cut for Google, that we don't want it, you don't want it, right? And so Then they go, oh, we have a show here. That tells you how great it is to do tax cuts for giant corporations.
Yeah, stuff, right?
Right, it's not going to work.
So,
It's a lot less likely to work than, here, Joe Biden, Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi, take a check from Google. Now give me a goddamn tax cut.
Yeah, but let's make sure we understand, though, that the direct, if you have to go, I understand, but the direct money in politics, though, is more limited than I think you're presenting it. It's like $2,700 limits. You can give to super PACs. The super PAC technically is supposed to have some distance from candidates.
Yeah,
No,
but
come on.
No, Cenk, I agree. It's a bunch of BS, right?
Okay.
It's a bunch of nonsense because they share data and all that stuff. But then but do you see any concern that this is regulating speech?
No.
And can I just make a point about the media angle? Look, I think that your point is a legitimate one. I think that your point is even more legitimate in an era where we had like 4 networks, and those 4 networks basically dominated the entire message in the country. Media is so much more diverse now, diversified, I should say.
And it's harder to control.
It's harder to control. There's a lot more competition. There's a lot more independent media. And so the idea of corporate interests buying elections through the media, it's just a lot harder to do in today's era, you know.
I don't know if you're getting a rap sign or not. If not, I can stay. But
No, last question.
I'm sorry.
Last answer. Go ahead.
Okay. No, you have a last question for me?
No, that was the one.
Oh yeah.
I just made a point.
Yeah, no, but but look, I want to agree with you guys on something. I think it's repulsive and disgusting because I have things I want to see get done. And when for example, I want to see immigration restricted to this country. You guys don't agree, whatever. But I get blocked by the donor class.
Mm-hmm.
And I get by institutional corporate that want a flow of cheap labor into the country. Now, it used to be a left-wing issue, actually more than a right-wing issue, to restrict immigration, and Bernie Sanders would have that. That's changed, but so I sympathize with you. Another example, I'm trying to say, like, let's not send money to Ukraine, and I'm up against all these institutional interests. I'm just not convinced that regulating speech is a good path to go down, and that's what that decision was ultimately was decided upon.
Yeah, so,
but you might be right.
Well, I'll take you might be right. And
No,
and
I'm just
there's
saying,
a difference between
You
speech.
might be right.
Yeah, you and I could have a certain amount of speech. When somebody gives $1 billion, they get a lot more speech, right?
No, for sure. But hold on, hear me out. But your platform is worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
From your mouth to God's ears.
Well, but I'm saying, no, but I'm saying, but if I were to do an influencer post, or you were, there's a value assigned to that. So it's easy to just throw the billionaires under the bus, but there is a price tag to us tweeting or us posting, right? That now has a new currency in the digital era that wouldn't have been a thing in the 80s or 90s.
Yeah, much more removed, as we talked about. So, last super quick question: do you still live like a capitalist every day?
I watched back that video. It's so cringe, and it's like we can all grow and become better people. And yeah, I don't even know what that means.
I didn't either. That's why I wanted to ask. All right, thank you for joining us, Charlie.
Thank you,
Appreciate
guys.
it.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, from Turning Point USA. We'll be right back.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after.
No!
So all that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.
Oh, well.
That Donald Trump is on a viable path as of today to get to 330 electoral votes, Wolf, or even higher, or even...
Well, anyways, I'm going to go get my dinner now. I'll be right back. I shall have dinner.
higher because they see other states in here. The Trump campaign says Minnesota. The Trump campaign says maybe New Mexico. Let's be cautious. Those are blue states traditionally. But the president's standing, his approval rating, his ballot number, people's views about how old he is, and people who view the state of the economy are very bad for the president right now. And so even if you just go back to where we start, Donald Trump is in command. The numbers are getting worse for the president.
That damning polling data is likely why Democratic Congressman, who's now running for a Senate seat in California, Adam Schiff, is calling on Biden to drop out of the presidential race. That is a big deal. And so he did so through a written statement, writing that while the choice to withdraw from the campaign is President Biden's alone, I believe it is time for him to pass the torch, and in doing so, secure his legacy of leadership by allowing us to defeat Donald Trump in the upcoming election. And then he continues, our nation is at a crossroads. A second Trump presidency will undermine the very foundation of our democracy, and I have serious concerns about whether the president can defeat Donald Trump in November. And look, Cenk, Schiff isn't wrong. In fact, you and I have been pretty early in noting that Biden was likely going to lose to Donald Trump. And by the way, we were spreading that message, trying to communicate that to our audience before that terrible debate results.
Yeah, so on the debate, guys, remember, the debate isn't when Joe Biden's problems started. It's just when people started finding out about Joe Biden's problems. Now, it didn't take a rocket scientist to find those problems. We cover the news every day. Those problems were actually evident. But the entire ecosystem, both the Democratic establishment and I would argue the media establishment, were covering it up. And they just couldn't cover it up after the debate. And once the veil was lifted, then all of a sudden the press said, oh, we feel lied to. Oh, come on. You didn't have eyes and ears before the debate? You didn't see him not being able to complete sentences? Well, how come we saw
Obama
it, right?
ushering him off the stage.
My hair was on fire so much that I ran against him. So this has been clear for over a year at a minimum. But now the difference maker isn't Biden's condition. It's how it's affecting the other Democrats. So Adam Schiff is a pillar of the establishment, and the establishment never turns on itself. They love attacking progressives. They'll attack anyone who disagrees with the establishment at all, but they never attack each other. I can't remember another time it's happened, okay? So for Adam Schiff to come out publicly against Biden means he's pretty much already done. No way Adam Schiff takes that kind of risk and has the courage to come out against an establishment candidate, especially the presidential candidate, unless the donors not only authorized it, but asked him to do that. So that means not only has he lost the establishment politicians, and we hear that Nancy Pelosi is working the phones to get rid of Biden, but he's also lost the donors, which was his main power base. I've been telling you all along, once he loses the donors, he's a goner because he can't raise money. And that's the only advantage that he has over anyone else, is his ability to raise money from those donors. And then finally, the Democrats in the swing districts, the purple states, they're all in an absolute panic right now because they're almost all going to lose. Even Adam Schiff in a California Senate race is a little worried.
Yep.
In fact, I got an email. I know it's a fundraising email. I know that they're all cheesy and I know they're all over the top and you shouldn't take any of them seriously. But he did include a poll about a number about how Steve Garvey has outraised them in California. So the Democrats are in massive trouble, and they finally realize it, and they realize there is no answer but getting rid of Biden.
It really is incredible, right? That you won't get anyone within the party to do anything until they realize that their ass is on the line. And that really bothers me. So putting that aside for a moment, you may have seen some of the news segments or Morning Joe segments where they keep repeating over and over again that no, it's actually a toss-up according to the national polls. It's still a toss-up according to the national polls. Okay, let's actually do an analysis or show you an analysis that compares where Biden was at this point in the election back in 2020 compared to where he is today. Let's watch.
This is back in 2020 when pretty convincing win, 306 to 232. This is the map as it fills in. Remember the then when you look at the now, because the difference is striking. This is how our CNN political unit, led by David Chalian, projects the race right now. And right now, deep red, solid Republican. Light red, lean Republican. If this map played out, the election were today and the map played out like this, even if the toss-ups went blue, Donald Trump would win the election. Donald Trump would win the election. But the map is even more favorable to Donald Trump if you look through this. New polling today, it's a small lead, but Donald Trump is leading in Pennsylvania right now. Donald Trump is leading in Wisconsin right now. Donald Trump is leading in Arizona right now. And Donald Trump, most believe, is right now has the lead in Nebraska too.
Thanks for watching. Our audience has helped build TYT into the media giant it is today. Together, we can accomplish anything. Support our work and join us at tyt.com/team. There is a possibility that Trump can rack up 303 electoral votes. That wouldn't just be a win. He would take that as a mandate, as a referendum on Biden's presidency. And that's not good. That's not good for Democrats. Okay, not good at all. And by the way, I mean, Schiff also isn't wrong about basically how Biden is likely going to drag down the down ballot races. And take a look at how Biden's low approval numbers is dragging him down in the polling as well, or at least in how he's going to perform in these various battleground states. Let's watch.
This is new public polling, battleground, 7 battleground states released just today. Forgive me for turning my back. I want to turn this out. Look at the incumbent president's vote share. Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Nevada. 42 is the highest the incumbent president gets in vote share in these battleground states. That's a path to big loss, even if Donald Trump can't get to 50 because of the third-party candidates. Look how closely it correlates to the president's approval rating. This is the president's approval rating, 36%, 37% in Arizona, 42% in Georgia, 40% of the vote. You get it. You follow it through. If he cannot get his approval rating to go that way, he can't move that. And that number has been stuck or getting worse since the debate.
And Jay, to your credit, I mean, you usually talk about Biden's approval rating on a national level, but you keep making the point that no incumbent president with a low approval rating like Biden's has ever gone on to win re-election. You were first in saying that. You said it over and over again. Everyone either ignored it or looked down their noses at you for saying it. But now you have, mainstream media pundits, you have mainstream media hosts, you have cable news calling it like you were calling it literally months and months ago.
Yeah, guys, this is what's so frustrating, because if you're a professional in politics, you know that if you're an incumbent in the 40s, you're in a lot of trouble. Very, very, very unlikely to win. In the 30s, almost never happens. That's not a rule that came out last week. That's a rule that's been around for decades. So I would say it to people, and they would just go, forget about it. What does that mean? Oh, or it's not that important. Well, that means you're just admitting you don't know politics, right? So now, all of a sudden, CNN and everyone else, a year later, are like, oh yeah, he does have low approval ratings. Oh yeah, the approval ratings are what make the difference. That's why the rule exists. They were actively ignoring the rule on purpose to protect Biden. So you look at those numbers, and then it tells you a second thing. The approval rating matches his polling in the actual race, right? That's what John King was just explaining. Why is that a second part of why that's so relevant? Because the Democrats keep lying to you and saying, oh, no, the approval rating is not important because you just have to look at the alternative. And because of Trump, he'll win anyway. No, but that's the numbers now in the race against Trump.
Yep.
Those are the actual numbers against Trump. And we were right. No, their approval rating matches exactly. They're voting on the incumbent. That's what we told you. They're voting on that. They're not voting on Trump. And so, and this race has become all about Biden now. It should be all about Trump's problems. Instead, it's all about Biden's problems. Because Biden's problems are now so gigantic that even CNN is admitting not 303, 330 electoral votes. And what did we tell you for all this time? Not only is Biden going to lose, but he's going to crush the Democrats in Congress. Down ballot's going to have massive effect, and Trump is going to get to declare that he has a mandate. And that's exactly the road we're on. So the other way that the establishment Democrats will, and to be fair here, the establishment Democrats, a lot of them are on our side, which is weird, super weird, right? But the pro-Biden team.
I would say the DNC.
Yeah.
The DNC is like delusional, totally delusional.
No, because the DNC are purposely lying because they were hired by Joe Biden to lie on behalf of Joe Biden. That's just a fact. I've never seen a head of the DNC disagree with a Democratic president.
Okay, I believe he's starting to get repetitive, so let's look at Project 2025.
A 920-page document would usher in the most conservative. This 920-page document would usher in the most conservative.
Thank you, Wall Street Journal.
branch
Thank you,
in
the Young
modern
Turks.
American history.
I'd like to
It's
sub to your
enacted.
channel.
It's called Project 2025. Its pages offer new administrations a blueprint for executing a right-wing
Turns out
agenda,
that Steve Bannon
from purging the government of thousands of civil servants to dismantling the Department of Education.
We do have to initiate the largest mass deportation project in the history of this country.
Former President Donald Trump has distanced himself from Project 2025, but Democrats aren't buying it.
Project 2025 would roll back our fundamental freedoms, undermine our democracy, and gut checks and balances.
Here's a closer look at the four main pillars of this radical plan and how they could transform the American government as we know it.
One of the things that's interesting about Project 2025 is the tone. You hear the term woke mentioned dozens of times, radical mentioned dozens of times. It's remarkably driven by culture war politics.
Project 2025 is designed as a government in waiting if Trump or any conservative president returns to office. It's the brainchild of the Heritage Foundation, a conservative think tank and lobbying group that has helped staff Republican administrations since the Reagan era.
We cover literally every public policy issue in Project 2025, from domestic policy to foreign policy.
Kevin Roberts is the president of the Heritage Foundation and one of the driving forces behind the project.
All Project 2025 is trying to do is to be a corrective to the liberal nonsense that has been so insidious inside the executive branch for the last half century.
The Heritage Foundation says Project 2025 is backed by more than 100 conservative organizations and a $22 million budget.
So I think the size, scale, and sophistication of Project 2025 is unprecedented.
The project has four main pillars: a policy plan, a personnel database, an online academy, and a playbook for the president's first 180 days
Online
in office.
Academy.
We can be ready to hit the ground running on day one of the next administration.
The first pillar is a policy agenda that focuses on dismantling the so-called administrative state, or what some conservatives call the deep state.
Either the deep state destroys America, or we destroy the deep state.
For Project 2025, dismantling the administrative state means purging the civil workforce of tens of thousands of federal employees and replacing them with conservative, pre-vetted picks.
There is a concentration not just of power, but a concentration of radical leftist ideology in these employees. Hopefully we will see over the next 10 to 20 years the elimination of entire cabinet departments.
The plan would dismantle the Department of Homeland Security, eliminate the Department of Education entirely, and transform the FBI into a political task force that is accountable to the president.
But the leadership of the FBI has been awful and rotten and not transparent for a long time. It is very important that Congress reestablish its purview over the FBI generally, its jurisdiction.
To give a sense of how radical this is, the FBI is an organization that has never been run by a Democrat. And so this is an organization that in its bones is a fairly conservative organization, and where now you have right-wing voices saying that it should be eliminated.
The playbook also outlines a plan to bring many federal agencies, like the Department of Justice, under more direct presidential control.
What Project 2025 articulates is the idea that the president should be the one directing the activities of the Department of Justice, even if that means that the president will not be investigated, or that the DOJ will be sent to attack the president's political enemies.
We will root out the communists, Marxists, fascists, and the radical left thugs that live like vermin within the confines of our country.
The Heritage Foundation says it wants to ensure that what remains of this whittled down federal bureaucracy is conservative, not just for the next president, but for a long time to come. Pillar 2, Personnel Database. The Heritage Foundation has already contracted the technology company Oracle to build this database, kind of like a conservative networking platform.
We've recruited Americans all over the country, and so we've had well over 11,000 people who've applied to be considered by the next president and his administration.
Trump really emphasizes loyalty, and you see those practices now being adopted by Project 2025, where you fill out a form that essentially indicates if you are loyal to President Trump or not.
Once they're fully vetted, they can move on to Pillar 3, an online presidential administration academy that would train future bureaucrats in conservative values and governing.
So we want these people who are competent, who have great credentials, to be prepared for the specific job that they will have.
Project 2025 provides detailed policy plans for dozens of government agencies, outlining ways to create de facto abortion bans, slash federal investment in renewable energy, and roll back environmental regulations. Here, you can see several sections dedicated to consolidating U.S. immigration agencies and expanding their power.
Number one, we have to close the border. We do have to initiate the largest mass deportation project in the history of this country. The 12 million
Oh my God, you
come in
sound
as
like
illegal
Hitler.
aliens must be sent back to their native countries.
But how legally sound are these policy proposals, and what would they look like in practice? That's where Pillar 4 comes in, the playbook for the first 180 days of a conservative presidency. A big part of the plan is modeled off of a Trump-era policy called Schedule F.
Schedule F is originally an executive order that Trump signed that would allow him to turn thousands of career civil servants into political appointees that he could then fire if they displeased him in any way, and then have to be more responsive to a president who in the past has shown a willingness to fire people for disloyalty rather than for competence.
The Biden administration reversed this order in 2021, but Trump has vowed to bring it back if he is reelected.
First, I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively.
I think Schedule F is not just possible, but it's certainly an incredible priority of a second Trump administration. The problem with Schedule F is that there is no real limitation to the number of people who could be converted.
Underpinning many of Project 2025's policy proposals is a legal principle called the unitary executive theory. It is based on a clause in the Constitution that says the executive power is vested in the president.
The Project 2025 assumption is that the president has something called unitary executive authority. This gives him enormous untested powers to essentially do whatever he wants.
Long
and
maintenance.
reduces
Damn it.
the power of Congress to check those powers.
Conservative Supreme Court justices, like Justice Samuel Alito, have signaled support for the unitary executive theory and skepticism of federal agencies.
The current Supreme Court has shown itself to be very open to claims that the president has enormous executive authority and so should be able to hire and fire people at will.
In July, the Supreme Court granted presidents immunity for any official acts taken while in office. Legal experts say this decision could set the stage for expanding presidential power.
Trump would be looking at a Supreme Court that would be quite sympathetic to his claims that he has extraordinary executive powers, far more than previous presidents, and would allow him to do things that previous Supreme Courts would have checked with other presidents.
Other legal scholars say the unitary executive theory and some of Project 2025's more radical proposals simply aren't realistic.
It will inevitably draw dozens of lawsuits if all of its policies are implemented. So you cannot eliminate an agency without Congress agreeing to that. Congress has the power to create agencies and to eliminate agencies unless the Supreme Court suddenly grants new power to the president
Project 2025 has garnered increased attention on social media.
Project 2025.
Project 2025.
Project 2025.
As Democrats shine a spotlight on its sweeping proposals.
Project 2025 will destroy America. Look it up.
This agenda is a fascist, authoritarian dictator's dream. And we know that that is exactly who Donald Trump wants to be.
Democratic Congressman Dan Goldman is part of the Stop Project 2025 task force.
So what we are trying to do is make sure that every American who is going to go to the ballot box on November 5th knows exactly what they will get if Donald Trump wins.
More recently, Trump made moves to distance himself from Project 2025. In a Truth Social post, he said he knew nothing about it, calling some of the proposals ridiculous and abysmal. Goldman says these statements are part of a larger political strategy.
So many of his former top officials are at the head of Project 2025. It is a political calculation that he's making because he recognizes that the American people do not support this extremist agenda.
President Trump is trying to win a presidential campaign, and we understand that he has to make political considerations. Given the millions of dollars that the left has spent attacking Project 2025 because they have nothing else to run on, I wasn't surprised to see President Trump's statement, nor are there any hard feelings.
Back in 2022,
Nor were
Trump
there any
spoke to
hard
the
feelings.
Heritage Foundation and was direct about its role in crafting future policy.
This is a great group, and they're going to lay the groundwork and detail plans for exactly what our movement will do and what your movement will do when the American people give us a colossal mandate to save America, and that's coming. That's
Colossal
coming.
Trump's own
mandate
policy
to
platform
save
closely
America.
resembles many of Project 2025's proposals too, from cracking down on immigration to blocking gender-affirming healthcare and stopping a woke and weaponized government.
Given the persuasiveness of these
Weaponized.
ideas, the overlap that exists between Trump's stated priorities and the priorities of the project, that will all sort itself out. It really is the conservative playbook, not just for the next year or two, but hopefully for the next generation.
It was good.
This 920-page
Why are iHeartRadio? Oh yeah, I was gonna watch that one.
Turns out that Steve Bannon recorded over 15 hours of interview footage with
Why?
sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein in an effort to allegedly help rehabilitate his horrible image, and that's according to reporting by Business Insider.
Oh good, Bannon tried to help Jeffrey. Oh good.
It is a shocking one, to say the least.
It's not shocking to
and
me.
I hope that in the end
No.
we get a sense of what the truth is. But here's what Business Insider is reporting. They say that the footage was allegedly supposed to be used in a documentary. The documentary was supposed to be titled "The Monsters: Epstein's Life Among the Global Elite" for Bannon's production company Victory Films. Now, before Epstein went to prison on sex trafficking charges in July of 2019, Bannon actually spent months in his homes in both Manhattan and in Paris doing these interviews with Epstein. Now,
Why?
Bannon first publicly claimed the
Why?
footage was for a documentary in September of 2021.
Bullshit.
That was more than 2 years after Epstein's death. And he told the Daily Mail in a statement at that time, quote, "The footage was part of a planned 50 hours of open-ended, no-holds-barred interviews with Epstein for an 8 to 10 hour expose on his deep relationships with the global elites in finance, science, education, medicine, politics, and culture." However, this is where the story gets super interesting. Sources close to them say that their relationship actually went beyond, making a documentary film. Okay, so Bannon allegedly grew close to Epstein in the summer of 2018. That was about a year before he went to prison, and served as somewhat of an advisor to Epstein. In fact, Bannon's explanation that he was producing a documentary about Epstein was nonsense, according to people who spent time with both men around the time they were in each other's lives. In reality, the two acted like friends around each other. And Bannon, these people
they
said,
are,
was trying to help Epstein, a notorious
oh
sex
good,
offender,
help
with
Epstein.
his public relations problems.
Good idea.
Mark Epstein, who is Jeffrey Epstein's brother, said Bannon was trying to help his brother rehabilitate his reputation after the Miami Herald in 2018 published a series of articles which ultimately led to an indictment by federal prosecutors in Manhattan about his sexual abuse of girls in Palm Beach. Jeffrey allegedly told his brother Mark that Bannon recorded the video to help prepare him for interviews or for testimony in civil lawsuits from accusers. And in Michael Wolff's 2021 book, Too Famous, he actually backed up claims that Bannon sought to change the public perception of Epstein, perhaps in an effort to protect Donald Trump. We don't know, but that is something that's being suggested here. Bannon believed Epstein knew dangerous secrets about Trump, Wolff wrote. "You were the only person I was afraid of running the campaign," Bannon told Epstein, or ruining the campaign, I should say. Bannon told Epstein, according to Wolff's book. And Mark Epstein, again, that's Jeffrey Epstein's brother, inquired about the footage in a meeting with Steve Bannon after his brother's death, but Bannon refused to share any more information or the footage. He told me he had like 16 hours of videotaping with Jeffrey in his vault, and he told me it was protected because it was witness preparation and it was protected under attorney-client privilege. But the thing is,
Bannon's not an attorney.
Which is absolutely true. Mark said Bannon asked him for money, saying that he needed $6 million in order to complete the documentary, which Epstein's brother declined. He's like, no, I'm not going to give you $6 million. Now, many years later, obviously, there's been no documentary whatsoever. And the actual footage of the interviews has been kept under wraps. And it didn't even come to light in the criminal trial of Ghislaine Maxwell, who was, of course, convicted of assisting Epstein's sex trafficking, nor in any of the civil lawsuits that were brought forth by Epstein's victims. Thanks for watching. Our audience has helped build TYT into the media giant it is today. Together, we can accomplish anything. Support our work and join us at tyt.com/team.
This is an interesting turn of events. So the guys who are constantly talking about groomers and, oh my God, we're worried that the Democrats are pedophiles, etc. So you spent a lot of time with Jeffrey Epstein, Steve Bannon, and you got him on tape. Now, look, at a bare minimum, think about it, especially if you're a right-winger, especially if you hate what Epstein did. At a minimum, shouldn't we find out what's on those tapes in case there's something about who were some of his clients? What did he do? We would get to find out more about his criminal enterprise. Why wouldn't Steve Bannon share that? Why would he keep that hidden and secret? Because all that could do is help Jeffrey Epstein and all the people that participated in the gross things that Epstein did. So if you're a right-winger or anyone who hated what Jeffrey Epstein did, shouldn't you be livid with Steve Bannon that he lied to you this whole time and didn't tell you that he had all of these incriminating tapes about Jeffrey Epstein? So, and then this cover story of it being a documentary. He asked for $6 million to turn into a documentary. Look, if you're not in media, you don't know if $6 million is a reasonable number or not. For a documentary, that's a monster number. You don't need $6 million for a documentary. That almost sounds like a threat. Give me $6 million because I have these tapes. So I don't know about that. I do know $6 million is an absurd amount to ask for a documentary. It basically means I don't want to make this, so I'll ask for a number you can't possibly afford, or I'm threatening you somehow, but it ain't for a documentary. And so him wanting to protect Trump to make sure that Epstein and Trump's connections don't come out, well, that sounds a lot more plausible.
It's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
And again, the fact that that footage never saw the light of day, the fact that there has never been a documentary, leads me to believe that the documentary was certainly not the intention from the get-go.
Okay, another question, again, to the right wing, because it's indisputable if you think about it.
if those tapes had incriminating information about Democrats, do you think Steve Bannon wouldn't have shared it? You know he would have. So that means, at a bare minimum, it does not have incriminating information about Democrats, but it might about Republicans and other people that Steve Bannon is aligned with. And why did he want to become friends with Jeffrey Epstein? Why did he want to help him with PR? Steve Bannon wanted to help Jeffrey Epstein with PR, according to this. Are you guys all good with that? I mean, did you care or did you not care?
I care.
Your inventory is full.
So Steve Bannon has
My
a lot
inventory
of
is
questions
full?
to answer here.
Yes, yes.
Because at a bare minimum, he hid those tapes.
Shit.
Well, Cenk, to add to the sketchiness, reporters have been asking him questions about this, and he ignores the request for comment, and he won't say a word about it. So it is an interesting revelation here. I hope this story develops because I personally would like to learn more. I mean, this is a guy who spent many hours sitting with and interviewing Jeffrey Epstein, who allegedly, took his own life after being imprisoned for the crimes that he committed. So there are a lot of questions that have remained unanswered about Jeffrey Epstein, and I think his victims deserve answers. I think the American people deserve answers, especially if there were political figures involved in what was going on with Epstein and his crimes.
Look, first of all, hashtag release the tapes. The American people need to know what's on those tapes. Putting aside Bannon, putting aside politics, what the hell? Are you crazy? Let's see what's in the tapes. I mean, how long are people going to protect the people that use Jeffrey Epstein to molest young girls? Because nobody ever says it, right? So they even capture the guy, they put him in prison, magically he winds up dead. Magically, no one can figure out who his client list was, even though the government has the list. Now, Steve Bannon has all these hours and hours of tape of Jeffrey Epstein, but none of it ever gets released.
No,
Isn't that interesting?
Cenk, the attorney-client privilege argument.
Oh, come on. Steve Bannon is not an attorney. He wasn't representing Epstein. Wait, was he representing Epstein? Now, that's a good question that if you follow Steve Bannon, you should be asking him. You were Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer? That's a revelation.
Right.
So either you weren't his lawyer and you have no right to keep those tapes secret, or you were Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer and you're trying to protect the worst pedophile in American history? And look, if you don't know the connections
Bannon, I
between
know.
Epstein and Trump, they were friends for 15 years. Trump has said on the record that he's a, quote, terrific guy. And he said that we used to party together. And he said, I know that Jeffrey likes his girls on the young side. So he knew all along. Now, last thing that connects all of these things together. When Ghislaine Maxwell was going to be prosecuted, his main co-conspirator, again, and she was the actual groomer. She would groom the girls, some as young as 14, 15, 16, etc., to bring them over to these perverts, these really rich men who would then either molest them or flat out rape them, okay? So this groomer, when she was being prosecuted, they asked Trump about her twice. And he said, I like her. And he said, I'm okay with her. Holy cow, are you kidding me? You can go ahead and look it up, okay? And he says, he had nothing bad to say about her at all. And Steve Bannon had these tapes when she was being prosecuted. He could have helped the prosecution of the biggest groomer in American history.
That's such a good point.
And he chose not to. So this is damning. Steve Bannon has a lot of explaining to do. The fake populist that has been pretending that he's with the people, takes their money, pretends to build a wall with it, doesn't. He worked at Goldman Sachs, and now we find out he's protecting the richest people in the country because they might be on Epstein's files. And this guy's a populist? No, he's been lying to you the whole time. He isn't anywhere near a populist. He loves the rich and he serves the rich, no matter what they do.
Hey, thanks for watching that video. We really appreciate it, guys. And we appreciate it if you become members because that allows us to be independent,
He's
honest,
not a populist,
progressive,
no.
all the things that you don't get from corporate media. And all of that is because of you guys. Hit the join button below and become one of us. Become a young Turk.
Indeed. I'm a young Turk now.
Welcome to the Daily Report for July 17th, 2024.
Thank you,
I'm John
CBS
Dickerson.
News. I've liked the subject
President
channel.
Biden campaigns in Las Vegas, but His party thinks he's the gamble. Fresh polls show Democrats want a different choice, and Congressman Adam Schiff says Biden should drop out. The Republican convention rolls into its third day. 39-year-old J.D. Vance steps up to the largest stage of his career. Donald Trump hints at his economic policies in a Bloomberg interview.
Hey, the guy you called Hitler.
Wisconsin,
You're
where
shaking his hand
Republicans
pretty
have gathered, is a key
happily.
battleground state, vital for President Biden. We'll take a tour of Wisconsin with a local reporter. And we'll discuss the president's reforms of the Supreme Court, check in on the latest from Gaza, and learn why they're changing one of the college entrance tests. And it's a notable date in emoji history. Your calendar emoji holds the clue. The Daily Report starts in a moment. Hello, thank you for joining us. We begin our report with the hole in the center of the assassination attempt against Donald Trump. What was the motivation? Countless hours have been spent discussing the political climate that caused it, but there is no evidence
about
at all that
50
the political
50
climate
hours.
caused it.
Yeah.
The Department of Homeland Security has opened its own investigation into the Secret Service security decision Saturday as the FBI continues to try to find any detail, every detail it can about the shooter. Congress is also searching for answers. Officials from the Justice Department, DHS, Secret Service, and the FBI were all on Capitol Hill Wednesday to debrief lawmakers on the investigation. Meanwhile, Donald Trump's defiance in the aftermath of the attack continues to be a central part of the celebrations of his nomination at the Republican convention, where Tuesday he was treated to a parade of lawmakers he dispatched in his rise to dominate the party, all of them calling for his return to power.
I'll start by making one thing perfectly clear. Donald Trump has my strong endorsement, period.
Donald Trump has been demonized. He's been sued. He's been prosecuted, and he nearly lost his life. We cannot let him down, and we cannot let America down.
For the latest on the shooting investigation, CBS News Homeland
Y'all look so
Security
evil
Justice
to me.
correspondent Nicole Steiner joins me
Fight
now.
or run.
Nicole,
We
it's
better
good to be with
decide
you again.
fast.
What do we know about? What more do we know, I should say, about the shooter?
Yeah, John, according to law enforcement sources, in the months before the shooting, the gunman's shipping history shows he ordered and received hazardous materials. And the days before the shooting, the gunman visited his local gun club. He bought a ladder at Home Depot. And John, we're just learning the shooter visited the rally site a few days in advance to scope it out. On the day of the shooting, he bought 50 rounds of ammunition at a gun store in his hometown. He drove 50 miles north to the rally with 3 fully loaded magazines and parked his car. Inside of it, there was also an explosive device hidden. He had 2 more at home. There's a premeditation here, but as for the motivation, investigators are still doing a full forensic scrub. His family, including his parents, have cooperated, and the FBI has interviewed them along with hundreds of others.
Is there anything new, or what can you tell us about the DHS investigation into the Secret Service?
Yeah, John, this is interesting. The investigation is still waiting for a lead to be appointed by the DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, one who is independent outside of the administration. But this is one probe of many. So far, by my count, we have at least 3 congressional investigations, including one led by House Speaker Mike Johnson that he says will be bipartisan, plus 2 reviews from the DHS Inspector General, one on what happened Saturday and one on what happened in the planning beforehand. All of that is on top of the FBI's ongoing investigation.
And then finally, Nicole, this was in the wait, what category yesterday when there was this report that that there was an Iranian plot and that the Secret Service had been alerted to that on Saturday at the former president's speech. What more do we know about that plot?
Yeah, so just for context, John, Trump has long been a target for the Iranians, most notably after directing that 2020 airstrike that killed a top Iranian commander, General Soleimani. But in the weeks and months before the shooting, an intelligence source tells CBS News that the chatter concerning an Iranian plot to assassinate the former president, well, it grew louder. It was backed up by human-sourced intelligence obtained by the U.S. At that point, the White House's National Security Council alerted Secret Service of the threat. And meanwhile, amid all of these requests from Trump's security detail for more help, there were some assets granted by the Secret Service. including counter-sniper teams like the ones we saw on Saturday take out the shooter, as well as CAT teams, counter-assault teams like the ones we saw really tackle the president, cover him, and former president,
we must be quick. Together we can bring it down.
Of the rally site, John.
Nicole's getting up. Great stuff. Thank you, Nicole. Former President Donald Trump revealed more about his policy vision in an interview with Bloomberg Businessweek conducted last month, but which was released this week. Trump said he wanted to lower the corporate tax rate down to 15% if he returns to the White House. During his first term, he lowered the rate from 35% to 21%. He also suggested imposing new tariffs on imports from China, anywhere between 60 to 100%, in addition to a 10% across-the-board tariff on virtually all foreign imports. Trump also touched on personnel, naming J.P. Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon as a possible Treasury Secretary. Spokesman for Dimon, who has spoken favorably about Trump, declined Bloomberg's request for a response. CBS News chief election and campaign correspondent Robert Costa is at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. There he is on the floor. Bob, at the convention this week, first night, Teamsters President Sean O'Brien railed against corporate interests and the politicians who support them over workers. How do you think this 15% corporate tax rate reduction squares with Trump's pitch to the workers that O'Brien represents?
It's a great question, John, and the details are really going to matter as this campaign season unfolds. It was just a few months ago I was with Sean Fain, the president of the United Workers, Auto Workers in Detroit, Michigan, and I spoke to President Biden. I said, are you with Fain? He's been one of the leaders, the strike that really dominated much of 2023. And President Biden told me he's there with Fain. He's showing up at union halls. So you have this battle for the working voter, and the J.D. Vance pick for VP is in part about that as well. As much as the comments are by the former president to Bloomberg Businessweek and other outlets, you're seeing in J.D. Vance someone who has been an advocate for stricter antitrust policies from a conservative perspective, which is really intriguing to me as a reporter because you have the Biden administration through the FTC, the FTC chair Lena Khan issuing a lot of lawsuits against major corporations for possible mergers. And J.D. Vance, as an Ohio Republican senator, has echoed FTC Chair Khan in many instances. And you're seeing in so much of the rhetoric a play for the working voter. And there's a political reason for all of this. Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, these are seen as the states that are necessary to win the White House this time around.
It's such a good point. The FTC is targeting the same big tech companies that O'Brien targeted in his speech. And then you've got J.D. Vance right in the center of that, at least intellectually. Let me ask you about the question.
And you have J.D. Vance being very close with Silicon Valley and with people like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, who are going to be potentially major benefactors for the Trump campaign movement.
Yeah,
I killed it.
Ben about that because you know, talks about elites and how he came to a vision and an understanding Donald Trump once he got out of the kind of brainwashing that the elite had caused. That was one of the ways he explained his conversion. But I mean, if you're backed by Elon Musk and Mark Andreessen and some of these others from Silicon Valley, Peter Thiel, you got some elites on your side too.
Yes. On one level, of course, that's an accurate statement. But what's interesting, John, here talking to delegates walking around the convention floor, is that Elon Musk, because he bought Twitter and made it X, and has this anti-establishment ethos in his public persona, that is seen by so many Republican voters as some way putting him outside of the establishment. He is someone who's not part of the Wall Street community, even though his company and similar companies in the tech community, they drive a lot of the gains on Wall Street. And so you have this tension there where some of the richest people in the world are aligned with former President Trump, and they have an anti-establishment rhetoric that they put out there, but at the same time, they're really looking for traditional conservative tax policies should Trump win the White House again. What will working voters really care about? Will they see the signal? Will they see other aspects of the campaign and point to J.D. Vance's upbringing as a sign that the Trump campaign's with them? Or will they look to President Biden showing up at a picket line and say, no, he's our pick? That's really the biggest question of 2024, in my view, as a reporter.
Excellently framed. Robert Costa in Milwaukee. Thank you so much, Bob. President Biden has tested positive for COVID-19, forcing him to cancel a planned appearance in Unidos.
Great timing.
You've been examined. The cancellation comes as The cancellation comes as he faces fresh challenges from within his own party. Today, California Representative Adam Schiff called for Biden to step down from the race. The Senate candidate and Trump impeachment manager is the most prominent elected Democrat to seek a Biden alternative, despite Vice President Harris being the obvious choice. New Politico polling finds the strongest supported alternatives in battleground states to be Senator Mark Kelly, Governor Wes Moore, and Governor Josh Shapiro, none of whom we should say are even close to vying for the spot. The president is still trying to convince voters he's up to the job. He resumed campaigning in Las Vegas after briefly pausing following Saturday's shooting. New fundraising texts from the campaign attacked Donald Trump's newly announced running mate, J.D. Vance. Susan Page joins us now from Milwaukee. She's the Washington bureau chief for USA Today. Susan, it's great to be with you again. Before we get to the state of things now, let's go back to Friday, before the attempted assassination on Donald Trump. Democratic lawmakers were calling on President Biden to drop out. There was a contentious phone call with dozens of moderate House Democrats. Tell us where the state of things were before this earthquake in politics that took place on Saturday.
Well, there was every expectation that a series of additional Democratic members of Congress were poised to come out and publicly call for President Biden to step back from the nomination this year.
Is this not so?
To serve a second term. Now, the assassination
He thinks
attempt
ever and
put a
always
stop
on his
to
own
that
profit.
for a time. But
Assure
Adam
him of
Schiff's
it, and he shall remain
language
true to our
today,
cause.
saying
I do
that
not
it's
share
time
your
for Biden
Majesty's
to
trust.
step back
We will
is
continue this later.
enormously significant.
Now we should concern
And
ourselves with
most
finding the
people
Dawn
think that
Shard.
Some people think that Adam Schiff's words on this reflect what Nancy Pelosi is thinking. She is right at the center of whatever is
It
going to happen.
sleeps in waiting, somewhere deep within.
As the author of
How can
Madam
you be
Speaker
certain?
Nancy Pelosi and the Lessons of Power,
I can hear its call.
give us one more beat on Nancy Pelosi's mindset as you see it, and help people understand how why Adam Schiff is talking, why not Nancy Pelosi? Give them a little insight into those dance moves.
Yeah. Well, Nancy Pelosi loves Joe Biden and has worked with Joe Biden for decades, but she is not a sentimentalist when it comes to politics. She is a vote counter in the House and a vote counter when it comes to elections. I am told, sources close to Pelosi tell me that she is talking to many, many House Democrats to figure out if Biden could cost them any chance they might have of regaining control of the House, if he could be disastrous at the top of the ticket. And, she's a person who plays power often behind the scenes, but she is very close to Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff, she installed him as the chief prosecutor in the impeachment case against Donald Trump. They are extremely close, and that's one reason that his words took on special power. The question now is, will some of those House Democrats and Senate Democrats who delayed, who paused on calling for Biden to get out of the way, will they come back now that a few days have passed since the assassination attempt?
The DNC announced today that the virtual roll call to formally nominate Biden will happen in the first week of August. People are going to wonder why there's a nominating before the convention. This had to do with an obscure law in Ohio. Help me understand, though, why not just do it at the convention now? Because I heard they got around that Ohio problem.
That's right, and there was an Ohio deadline that fell in early August before the convention was going to be held. Ohio then changed the law so that the Democrats could go ahead and have their convention when they planned to do so and still get on the ballot. So this is now an excuse, not a reason, to have an early virtual ballot. And there's a lot of pushback to this with the idea that this is an effort by the Biden forces to foreclose this debate that is still raging behind the scenes about whether he really should be the party's nominee.
Susan Page in Milwaukee. Thank you so much, Susan.
Thanks.
As we reported, President Biden has tested positive for COVID-19. CBS News campaign reporter Aaron Navarro joins me now on the phone. Aaron, what do we know?
Well, the news was first broken by the Unidos U.S. president, who announced why Biden would not be speaking at the event. But we just got word and confirmation from the White House that President Biden did test positive for COVID. They note he's vaccinated and boosted and is experiencing mild symptoms, and that he's going back to Delaware where he will self-isolate. They also include a note from his doctor saying that he had some upper respiratory symptoms, and that he had a bit of a cough and was feeling okay for his first event today, but given that he wasn't feeling better after that.
What if he dies of
and
COVID?
tested positive.
And Aaron, have they
That'd be
said
insane.
anything about what this means for the campaign? How many days he'll be off, or is that all to be determined?
I think the exact amount of days is to be determined. I can tell you I'm here at this campaign community event that Biden was supposed to go to after his Unidos US conference. Staffers here were pretty shocked at the news. I don't think the news has necessarily gone out to the crowd yet as they are listening to a mariachi band. But it comes at a pretty crucial point. Biden was active on the campaign trail here in Nevada, but as I mentioned, he'll be heading back to Delaware for a to be determined amount of days.
Aaron Navarro on the campaign trail for us. Thank you so much, Aaron. Still to come, President Biden reportedly wants to endorse major changes to the Supreme Court, a look at the potential plans and how it could affect the judicial system, or if it will at all. Plus, take out your smartphone and search for the calendar emoji, not your calendar program, but the emoji that corresponds with the idea of calendar. We'll be back to discuss. You're streaming the Daily Report. Wednesday marks 10 years since Eric Garner, an unarmed black man, died at the hands of a New York City
It's been
police
10
officer.
years now?
The 43-year-old was placed in a banned chokehold while being arrested for allegedly selling illegal loose cigarettes on Staten Island. His dying words, "I can't breathe," which he told officers 11 times. It became a rallying cry across the nation against police brutality. 6 years later, those same words were uttered by another unarmed black man, George Floyd, killed by police officers in Minneapolis. The officer responsible for Garner's death was fired 5 years after the incident. He was never charged, despite Garner's death being ruled a homicide. CBS News New York spoke with Garner's mother, Gwen Carr, about her ongoing fight for change within law enforcement.
There were plenty of other Eric Garners and George Floyds that we just didn't hear about. So this is why we have to fight and combat that, because we got to make this city, this nation, a safer place for everyone to live in.
That fight for change is still an uphill battle. Earlier this year, New York City officials reported police misconduct complaints are up 51% since 2021. CBS News has learned President Biden is considering a series of sweeping changes to the Supreme Court if he's reelected. The proposals, first reported by the Washington Post, include term limits for all 9 justices, an enforceable ethics code, and a potentially new constitutional amendment that would eliminate broader immunity for presidents and other constitutional office holders. The last proposal follows the High Court's conservative majority 6-3 ruling that said former President Donald Trump has immunity from prosecution for official acts taken in office. These changes would mark a major shift for President Biden, who once served as the Senate Judiciary Committee chairman and has indicated in the past he wouldn't make changes to the court. To help us sort through all of this, let's bring in CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson. She's also professor at Loyola Law School in Los Angeles. Jessica, first, how is the president going to do this? Can he make these changes to the Supreme Court? What's his route?
Well, he has 2 potential routes here, depending on what the change is. So if we take term limits, for instance, his commission that he put together to look at Supreme Court reforms was actually divided on the question as to whether or not Congress could impose term limits, or if you need a constitutional amendment to do that. In part because that's the Constitution itself, Article 3 says that federal judges can keep their jobs during times of good behavior, and we have understood that to mean lifetime appointments. Now, there are some more kind of creative things that you could do through a congressional route. You could say something like you have active duty as a Supreme Court justice for 18 years, and then you have something like senior status. So you essentially force people to cycle off or only to hear limited types of cases. Now, the cleanest route, legally speaking, is through a constitutional amendment, but that's even harder than getting something passed through Congress, which, as you and I know, is very difficult in and of itself. And then there are other reforms we can talk about, like the ethics package or the constitutional amendment regarding immunity. The ethics package, I also think, has legal and practical issues.
It does seem like this is a grab bag we got, but before we grab the other items in the bag, let me ask you about, so justices, as you mentioned, have lifetime appointments. What was the thinking behind that originally? And what's the new rationale for trying to give them an 18-year limit or whatever the limit happens to be?
I'll take the last part first. I think, honestly, the new rationale is we don't like, or people who support the reforms for the Supreme Court don't like a lot of their decisions. We tend to be really comfortable with lifetime appointments if we support the decisions that those judges and justices are making. And then, frankly, all of a sudden, we tend not to like lifetime appointments all that much when we disagree with their decisions. So you see a push from liberals and progressives for term limits after decisions like the Dobbs decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, the decision to strike down affirmative action, decisions to significantly weaken the administrative state.
It's like you guys.
Now,
it's like you guys
why do we give
don't
this
like
group
women or black
lifetime
people.
appointments? In part because what we want them to do is judge, not judge the political wins, but judge any particular case. Just look at the facts, just look at the law, and don't think about what's popular or how is something going to play in the next election. We know that a lot of state court judges do face elections, and the statistics indicate they sometimes do make different decisions right before an election.
And Jessica, we're running out of time because of this COVID diagnosis of the president, but the ethics code, the Supreme Court adopted its own ethics code in November. So what's the difference between what Biden is proposing?
Did you just blame being slow on the COVID, on the president's
Supreme Court
COVID?
ethics code doesn't have any teeth to it. There's no enforcement mechanism. Biden is saying we have an enforcement mechanism. I'm telling you, as somebody who teaches constitutional law, and we have a separation of powers concern, if you want to try and mandate something on the Supreme Court through Congress.
Excellent. Jessica Levinson, thank you so much, as always, for your expertise. As we reported, President Biden has tested positive for COVID-19. The White House released a statement saying the president is experiencing mild symptoms and is returning to Delaware to self-isolate. CBS News Chief Medical Correspondent John LaPook joins me now. Dr. LaPook, you've read through the doctor's note, doctor to doctor. Help us understand what's happening here.
Well, I was happy to see that he has, it sounds like mild symptoms, rhinorrhea, which is basically a runny nose, a non-productive cough, malaise, that means just not feeling well. He tested positive and he's self-isolating. Now, very good news was that his symptoms remain mild. His respiratory rate is normal at 16. That's one of the first things you look at, right? Because it can affect the lungs. If it affects the lungs, you would expect it to have labored breathing and breathing at an increased rate. His temperature is normal at 97.8. And very important, what's called his pulse oximetry, I think a lot of us have gotten used to that term now, is normal at 97%. That's putting a little gizmo on your finger, measuring how much oxygen is circulating throughout the blood, or it's a reflection of it, and 97% is plenty high. You want it to be certainly, you don't want it to be under 94%, for example. So I was very interested in the fact that they said that he's received his first dose of Paxlovid. You know, Paxlovid is the medication, we all know about it, that's used to treat COVID-19. And I just checked it again.
I've never heard of it.
He has been on a blood thinner called Apixaban, which is Eliquis, right? And Eliquis does have an interaction with Paxlovid, which is why you have to be very careful when you give the two together. The Paxlovid can increase the level of the Eliquis. There is actually an alternative that people sometimes give, called molnupiravir, which doesn't have that same interaction, but you know, he has the best advice in the world. I'm sure they're very closely monitoring how he's doing clinically, but I just wanted to sort of point that out. When I first saw that he has COVID, I thought, oh, maybe they're not going to give him Paxlovid, but they did, and I suspect they probably reduced the dose, and they're going to be monitoring him closely.
If you're on Paxlovid, John, does that have any side effects? It's a course of, I can't remember what the course of treatment is for that, but give us a sense of what you can tell from this, how you know, his next week's going to be.
Yeah, well, you know, I've lost count. More prescriptions than I can wave a stick at, John, of Paxlovid. It's a pill you take twice a day. If they have, You have to adjust it sometimes depending upon kidney function. There are side effects. People can have GI side effects, some nausea, some diarrhea. Everybody pretty much gets a metallic taste in their mouth from it. It's generally a 5-day course. There has been some discussion about whether it should be longer to try to decrease the risk of long COVID. One thing I will say about long COVID, a New England Journal of Medicine article hot off the presses today said that the people, it was a big study, veteran study, 450,000 people, people who were from March 1st, 2020 to January 31st, 22, and the people who were vaccinated, John, had a much lower risk of long COVID. It was 3.5% in vaccinated versus 7.8% in people who were unvaccinated. So, you know, less than half the risk of having long COVID. So they said in the press release he is vaccinated, he is boosted, so that's good news. He's having mild symptoms, so one would expect that he would do well. But again, he has, you know, he's an older person. That's the kind of person who we are going to take a close look at, make sure that he heads in the right direction.
And is apparently the reporting is he wasn't feeling well and he took the test, but he was at campaign events and that kind of thing. What does that mean for the people he was around today? And it feels like everybody's gotten it this summer, which is just a random.
Yeah, you know, John, right before, because, you know, look,
I haven't.
as you can tell how I'm dressed, I was actually on the treadmill doing my exercise when you came in. I ran in here. I'm looking on, you can't see it, but the CDC COVID data tracker, there's definitely been an upswing in the early positivity, the test positivity, emergency room visits, and even hospitalizations are going up a little bit. One of the, of course, if he's testing positive, he was contagious. We know from all the aerosol studies, right, that it's not a matter of 3 or 6 feet. If you're positive, it's in your breath. It can float across the room over time, depending upon the ventilation, especially indoors, if it's not that well ventilated. And it can infect people, you know, across the room. Think about cigarette smoke. If there's somebody in a room with not great ventilation, they're smoking 20 feet away, and can you smell it? Yeah, if you can smell it, then you could potentially get infected. One of the really good things about the data about people who get vaccinated is now today we hear about the decreased risk of long COVID, but there's a dramatic decreased risk of hospitalization and death in people who are vaccinated and boosted.
Given what you just said, John, about spreading once you've tested positive, shouldn't the president have put on the presidential mask?
Where do you know where you mean after he found out that he?
Yeah, I mean, shouldn't he have a mask on right now?
It sounds like he said that he is in isolation, that he's self-isolating. Once he turned positive, yeah, the people, it's especially the people around him. You know, I see people with COVID all the time. The good masks, the N95, the KN95s, they're terrific at preventing COVID. If you're like a healthcare provider, if you're the doctor, how do I know that, John? Because in April of 2020, I was on the COVID wards at NYU Langone Health, where I'm a professor of medicine. People were coughing in my face who had COVID. I was wearing an N95. I also had one of those plastic shields, and I didn't get COVID. So, you know, there's sort of been this misunderstanding about masks. Are they effective? They are effective. The better the mask, the more effective they are. And I suspect the second that he tested positive, I don't know what he did in terms of putting on a mask, but certainly the people around him, I highly suspect were masked. And I suspect they might have been masked. If they were suspicious, they might have been masked even during the testing.
Just on that mask point, it also depends on how you got to make sure you're wearing them right? Like, you know, as a doctor, how to actually make sure it fits and all of that.
Yeah, you know, I remember when this first came out. Remember they talked about double masking. You know, when people were wearing their own cloth masks, there was a little bit of a shortage, and it was important to maybe to double mask it. You could press it down because, you know, there were areas around your cheeks where the aerosols could get in or get out. Now there's really no shortage of masks, so people can get the KN95s. I certainly have a bunch. They're not that expensive for people who, you know, of course they're not that expensive, but still there are people who can have trouble getting them. And I think public health, in the past, public health offices and public health officials have really made great efforts to try to make these masks available, the good ones, to people who are not able to buy them on their own.
John, may I ask you about Eliquis again? You mentioned that the president is on that, and there might be a conflict with the Paxlovid. What's Eliquis for again?
So he has atrial fibrillation. That's an irregular heartbeat where it's like instead of going bum bum bum, it's bum 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 bum. It's sort of an irregular heartbeat, right? And one of the risks of that is that you can get a blood clot forming in the heart, and it can travel up to the head and give you a stroke. So people get on blood thinners, which dramatically decrease the risk of a stroke. So he's been on Eliquis, but Eliquis comes with a price. For one thing, it's a blood thinner, and I've always been worried with him, if he fell, that, that you don't want him to hit any part of his body, but certainly not his head, and get bleeding there. But in terms of Paxlovid, there can be an interaction with Paxlovid where Paxlovid increases the level of the Eliquis. So if the Eliquis level you think is supposed to be one thing, and it's actually much higher, and the blood is thinner than you think it is, or than it's supposed to be given a normal dose, then the risk of bleeding would go up. And so that's something that people are very wary about. Again, this is the President of the United States of America, and he's got the best access to the best medical care. So I suspect they're looking at this really, really closely.
And before I let you go here, John, anything else that's a part of this, since I've gotten you off the treadmill, is there anything else a part of this that that came to your mind that we should let the good people out there know about?
The first thing I thought of was I hope his symptoms are mild. I have had, as I said,